Thank you very much. I need to unmute myself. Um, all right. Thank you very much. We've been focusing on on like offshore wind in New Jersey and in the region. And frankly, it's great to hear from Kate Rogers on her success off of Montauk. We had a conference on offshore wind last month. That was also attended by Vineyard Wind, and Vineyard Wind, uh, 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 which is located between Martha's Vineyard and the and Cape Cod is the first fully industrial sized manufacturing uh, offshore wind farm. Um, we've been lagging. I mean, the United States Vineyard Wind, North Fork, and a Block Island, and a two turbine demonstration project off the coast of Virginia are about it for the United States. In terms of like operating offshore wind farms. To put in perspective, Europe has over 30 gigawatts like offshore wind currently. And the United States, ironically enough, considering of the opposition that derailed New Jersey's offshore wind efforts during the Christie administration. The United States ranks a second in a land-based wind. The amount of like energy that's being generated by land-based wind farms, and it was great to see you have Rick W on. Before I went down to see his Atlantic County turbines the year they first opened up. In fact, Kansas currently generates over 50% of its electricity power its homes from a land-based wind. There is no doubt that the Ørsted withdrawal, which by the way was not just a withdrawal from New Jersey, they pulled back from European projects as well because they got overextended. A push on New Jersey's offshore wind development and the benefits from offshore wind back by a couple years, basically. I mean, you have to give credit to the Murphy administration, specifically the Economic Development Authority in New Jersey and the Board of Public Utilities for really speeding up efforts to put our offshore wind efforts back on track. As was mentioned earlier by Assemblywoman Murphy, the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities awarded 3.7 gigawatts like offshore wind contracts in January. 2.3 gigawatts of it to a leading light energy, which is the only American-based offshore wind developer, and a 1.4 gigawatts to Attentive Energy, which had already won a New York contract. So Attentive Energy's wind farms, offshore wind lease in the New York Bight, will be developed jointly to provide energy to both New Jersey and to New York. One thing that the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities did right from the beginning of this process was to require an investment in a domestic manufacturing in New Jersey from companies that it was awarding contracts to. So both Leading Light and Attentive Energy, like Atlantic Shores, which was a winning bidder in the second contract, are required to use the monopiles that are going to be built at Paulsboro. And in fact, the EDA is currently involved with making sure that the financing gets back on track for the Paulsboro monopile manufacturing facility, which had been mostly funded by Ørsted before Ørsted pulled out. A second thing that did not receive a lot of attention at the time of the award was that there was also a requirement that a leading light at its end of energy participate with the state in developing a tower manufacturing facility at the New Jersey wind port in Salem County. It's always been the goal to bring a manufacturing to the wind port. Now, one of the advantages here, it's not only the job creation, it is also the fact that if you're building your monopiles domestically, if you're building your towers domestically, you're a lot less vulnerable to supply chain issues on your projects. One of the issues that I'm not saying was the reason that Ørsted pulled out, but one of the reasons, like Ørsted cited, was its inability to get a monopile shipped across the ocean. We're in the middle of creating a regional offshore wind domestic manufacturing industry. A New York governor, Kathy Hochul, put a lot of money and a lot of investment into Albany and into the Port of Coedmans. There'd be manufacturing turbine blades up there. Basically, we'll be able to get most of what we need to build offshore wind turbines in the United States, with the exception of the motors. I'm told by a leading light that there's no one currently building the motors for the turbines in the United States. We are going to have to import those. But the more that we have a domestic manufacturing industry, the better off we are in terms of the supply chain, in addition to the goal of the Biden administration from the start, which was to make sure that this new industry generated jobs in the United States. There are Paulsboro, the monopile manufacturing facility at Paulsboro. I was down there before Ørsted pulled out, and saw the massive monopiles, which are a couple of football fields long, and a good 18 feet high in a diameter, and those would be shipped by barge down the Delaware River under the bridges lengthwise. The turbines that are going to be built at the New Jersey wind port, which, as mentioned earlier, we have the ability to go directly out to sea without having to go under any bridges. And if you've seen any of the photographs of the Vineyard Wind turbines, you're looking at turbines that are 5 or 6 times as tall as a tugboat. So I mean, these are massive. We certainly have Paulsboro at the time that it was just doing the welding together of sections and the sandblasting and the painting. Had 100 union jobs. The goal eventually, when we're manufacturing monopiles from scratch, from sheets of steel, that includes hitting a rolling mill at the facility. We'll have 500 to like 800 permanent jobs, plus all of the economic spin-off that generates. The goal at the wind port is 1,500 jobs from a combination of a manufacturing, such as the tower manufacturing facility I mentioned earlier, and the and the assembly and shipping out of the port. I'm talking about a 1,500 jobs there. Um, is this all going to go smoothly now that like Orsted's now that we've weathered Orsted, are we beyond all the problems? One of the things that the Economic Development Authority's executive director, CEO Tim Sullivan said at our offshore wind conference at Rowan last month was the only guarantee is that there will be other problems, and those are problems we may not necessarily be able to foresee. There's a need for regional cooperation and regional planning between the states. At this point, Virginia is about to build the Dominion Winds a farm, which is going to be a very large offshore wind farm. Massachusetts has other projects underway. New York is just getting started, along with New Jersey, in addition to Kate's project, which is up and running. We don't need three monopile factories. We don't need three turbine factories. New Jersey, it does not need to build turbine blades if New York's going to build turbine blades. We need some rational cooperation on who is going to build what, where the manufacturing is going to be located. Certainly, every state wants a share, but every state doesn't need to build everything. We are going to face major challenges with our transmission network. The New Jersey Board of Public Utilities deserves credit for its plan to bring everything, to bring all of its offshore wind to a central transmission facility in a Howell Township in Monmouth County. As people have talked about before, our energy infrastructure is designed a west to east. It now needs to be redesigned so it can also go east to west from the Atlantic out to the rest of the country. We have major issues with shipping. We have a law that requires American flag shipping. We're currently spending more money than we would need to do otherwise if we had American shipping available, using feeder barges. A Vineyard Wind was built with a feeder barge system. I'm sure that North Fork was. I'm sure the Case project was as well. And to a certain extent, because of the shortage of skilled labor, which, by the way, we have a shortage of technical skilled labor throughout the Northeast, in particular, not just to do with offshore wind, but with other issues, but with other manufacturing. We're going to probably need to sequence a construction of these like offshore wind farms. I don't know that we could. I don't know that New Jersey can build three offshore wind farms at the same time, or that the monopile factory is going to be able to be supplying three at the same time. New York has, I think New York has at least three large offshore wind farms under construction, maybe as many as five. So there is going to be, as I said earlier, there is going to need to be some regional planning. But again, this is an opportunity to create an industry, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job in attempting to create an industry, create a new industry here. Thank you.